Let's look at this. This is going to be the final part of this project as I've laid out, with the problem at the top, the design section, the write, the test and the refine. What I'm going to do with this is finish off the program. There's a little thing that is bugging me. I really want to get it fixed. I'll show you what it is shortly, and we'll fix the program. For you, really all I want you to do is see what happens, watch what happens, because again in 6 months or so time you're going to be doing something similar. And in the lessons leading up to the end of term, I'm going to come back to this problem and I'm going to start teaching you about it and helping you through all the parts. So let me first of all show you what the problem is that I'm talking about. If I run the program, and here's the program that we should have ended up with at the end of the last video. Don't worry if you didn't get there. At the moment, I'm only expecting you to copy things down just to get some experience of what's happening. If you make it work, brilliant. If you've done the flowcharts, brilliant. But you've really not got a lot to worry about at the moment, although it does look very hard. So I'm going to run this program. If I choose run and put in a blank password, it says access denied, as it's supposed to. Brilliant, but the program stops, and that's not so good. So I have to stop the program and run it again to have another go. So this time I'm going to just put fish for my password, access denied, and the program has stopped again. And really what I would like it to do is to keep asking me for a password until I type in a correct password and then get to the point where it stops. So I would like to be able to do this, type in a correct password and then the program stop, but I'd like to have several goes before that happens. I'd like to keep repeating, I'd like to keep looping around, and they're the important words for this lesson. So we're going to have a look at that. We're going to amend our program, and I'm also going to do it in PHP. That'll be a separate video again. So I'm going to amend my program. I'm going to amend the document through the design and the problem and the flowchart, although I'm going to leave the flowchart until the very end because that is actually the most difficult part. And if you could just copy the flowchart that I do, that would be absolutely superb, because you'll be learning how to use that software, and what I'm going to be doing is very, very tricky. However, the pseudocode isn't. It's fairly straightforward. There's only a few changes, and again with the program there's only a few changes. However, the test plan is not going to change. It's still going to show these details, and obviously when we paste in our code we're going to have the new version. So very little is going to change. None of these tests are going to change, and we'll just leave the refinement alone. So let's explain what the problem is. Let's add to this. So I want the program to continue until the user enters a correct password. The program should continue until the user types in a correct password. So that's the amendment I am making to the actual problem. The screen isn't going to change. It's just going to again keep prompting the user until they do a correct password, and then it's going to type logged in. However, I am going to need another variable, and it's a variable of a different type. So this lesson I'm actually going to introduce you to quite a new set of programming challenges. Up till now we've only used strings, so in this one I'm actually going to have a variable called logged in, and that variable is going to be of type Boolean. Now Boolean is a value that can either be true or false. That's all it can be. So that's our new variable, and for a purpose I'm going to write true if user enters correct password as a description or its purpose. And let's colour all these back to black so that the only changes are in blue. So I've got a new variable. My flowchart is going to change significantly. As I said, that is the hard part. But what I am going to say now is that there are three main programming constructs. The word there is constructs, and you'll meet these in the exam. They might ask you, what construct are we looking at in a flowchart or pseudocode? And they would expect you to answer. And there are three. There are either sequences. Now a sequence is one box which follows on to the next box in a straight line. So all of these down here is just a plain sequence. And then we've got the diamond shape here, which has two possible routes from it. So there was only one route down here, but now we've got two directions we could move off into, the yes or the no. That is called selection. But we've got to be careful, because when we design our flowchart for the third one, iteration, it looks very much the same. Selection, once we've chosen our path, the arrows continue going down, all of them. The new one that we're going to be doing, the third construct, iteration, we again have a diamond shape and we have a yes or no, but the arrows go back up to a place in the code where we start all over again and we keep looping around. So that is iteration. So we have this, a sequence of statements, we have selection, choosing which way to go, and then we have iteration, which we will do later on, which loops around. They are the three constructs. You'll be expected to look at a diagram and know which part is which. So they might say, what two constructs are shown here? And the answers would be selection and sequence. So let's go to the pseudocode. One thing that I haven't done, which is quite poor of me really, is that if we are using an if statement, then we need to use the word end if at the end of it to know where it ends. We're now getting to the point where we're doing sort of blocks of code. So all of this belongs to the if statement, so we need to know where it starts. So we use the keyword then. And we need to know where it ends, and we say that this is the end of the if statement. So that's fine now. That's just one thing that I wanted to add in that I didn't put in previously. So I'm going to turn all of these back to black from the previous lesson, so that the new code is in blue and you should be able to see it clearly. Right, so how am I going to do this? I need the new variable logged in. So we had a new variable at the top, logged in. So I'm going to include that here and I'm going to set it. And I'm going to say that logged in is false. I am not logged in to begin with. Logged in to false. I'm struggling with my keyboard. And all I need to do is write set on the front. Set logged in to false. At the moment, the rest of the program is the same. I'm going to make some slight edits and move things around in a minute. But we've got a loop now. And just put the spelling mistake right. We've got a loop now, and the kind of loop is a while loop. There are several loops in coding, three that you should be aware of. A while, a for loop, and a do while loop. And we're going to concentrate on the while loop. It's the most popular one. It's the one you'll use the most, and the others I will treat later on. 2 of them are available in Python with the while and the for, and the do while is not available in any of the languages that we study but might appear in the exam. So we will look at that briefly towards the exam. So I want you to get an understanding of what this loop's going to do. So I'm going to say while logged in is equal, and don't forget we're writing in kind of English statement. This is pseudocode, so I'm not going to use any symbols. While logged in is equal to false, and then just as I had at the end of the if statement, and then I'm going to put a word do. So that is the start of my loop. And what am I going to do in my loop? Well, I'm going to do pretty much all of this. I'm going to keep looping around and just keep doing that. However, I'm going to make a small change. So first of all, I'm going to, not do that. I'm going to indent these lines. So this is going to indent everything. That's not good. I have to use spaces. So I'm going to write out the prompt. I'm going to read in the password. I'm going to say that if the password equals secret, then, but I'm not going to write out the message here. What I'm going to do is, if the password is matched, I'm going to change logged in to be true. So I'm going to say here, set logged in to true. I just missed the end there. And we'll use the message in a bit. You'll see why. So then I've got my else part. So if they type an incorrect password, it's still going to write out that they have failed. And this is why I mentioned this one before. That's the end of my if statement. Because now, because I've got a loop with a keyword sort of do here, I need to put end the while loop. I need to know where the end of this piece that I keep looping over is. So only if I type in a good password, the correct password, will logged in be true. And if logged in is equal to true, it will not do these commands and it will drop out to this end while statement. And after that, that is where I can do my write out my message. You are logged in. And that will continue on down the program. It will not return to this looping section. So that's my pseudocode. So let me just highlight everything that I've changed there in blue so that you can see it clearer. Let's just take that. So I changed these lines. To make it work. Oops, just missed a bit there. And I'll give you this document so that you've got it for reference. So now I'm going to make this change in my program. So let me hop back over to Python. There's one of them down here, surely. And there we go. And I'm going to make this change. So I've got my new keyword here. So I've got logged in equals, and you've got to capitalize the F or the T in true and false. Then I've got this statement here, which is while logged in is equal to false, and we don't put the do on the end. The reason for that is to remind us that we need a colon. And in PHP, there's another version for it, but those who are programming in PHP, I will do a sort of comparison between the two. So when that happens, everything should be indented. So really, I need to indent all of these. So I'm going to go up to Format, and I'm going to choose to indent the region. That's it. So the next thing that I changed was I didn't put print message here. I typed logged in equals true. And that was it. And finally, I came out of my while loop. And this is why you need the end whiles and the end ifs, is to know that you need to go back to the start line underneath the while to write your next line. So the next line was print message, and that is it. I've actually made the change. So if I run this program now, we should see the difference. It should not stop until I give it a correct password. So I'm going to just put nothing in, access denied. Now it's asking me for another password, fish, and it's going to keep asking me for a password. And as long as I type the wrong password, it's always going to say access denied and asked again until I type in the correct password. And then it's going to say you are logged in and the program's stopping. So that's perfect. That's worked really, really nicely. Okay, so the next part actually is the hard part, because I'm going to go and have a look at this flowchart and make an edit to the flowchart. And mainly I get things wrong in this one, so I know how difficult this is. If you can practice these, it would be great. I would think that when you do your project, that you probably wouldn't use flowcharts. They would be too difficult. A, they're too long. B, they're too complicated. It's much easier to do pseudocode. As you see, this kind of went straight into Python. We could write directly into Python from this, whereas this is a little harder to play with. So I'm going to be pretty quick going through it. So this is the first one, the one that we did before. So what I need to do is break the program at the point before we ask for some input. So I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to move this well out of the way for the time being. There's a few changes got to be done on this one. So I had a new variable called logged in, so let's stick that in there. Set logged in to false. I'm going to shrink that down so it fits nicely. And then I had my while loop, and a while loop is just a decision. You're making a decision. Do you go round again? Do you not go round again? And the question here is logged in equal to true. And if it is equal to true, what I'm going to do is I'm going to print out that message and then end the program. So I've already got these items in here, so I'm going to pinch them from here so that you can see this. So I'm going to output the message. Just move this out of the way again. Oops, that wasn't moving it. This is why I want you to play around with this, is to practice, or even do it by hand, which is probably even harder, because if you make a mistake, you're going to have to rub things out. And what I'm going to do is delete that piece. I'm going to move the end of the program to here, so that let's join the arrows. That goes to there. That goes to there. So if logged in is true, we're going to output the message you are logged in, and then we're going to end our program. So now we've got the no bit, and we've kind of got a loop now. So this is where all of this is going to come in. So if we're not logged in, we're going to output the message, the prompt, please enter a password. Then we're going to read in the password. We're going to find out if the password is the secret one. If it's not, then we've failed. And what we need to do is go back round to the loop. So I'm going to pull out an arrow and watch what I do. I take it right the way up. Remember, this is a loop, so it's the first time the arrow is going in an upwards direction. And I make it join before we ask the question again. And it goes all over the place, so you've got some editing to do. So I'm just going to pull that out. Oops, it didn't even go where I wanted it to go. So we'll try again. It takes practice and lots of. So it's got to join on to that arrow there before it goes and asks about that loop. And again, we might need to drag that a little wider. So this is saying if it's not, is the password secret? No. Then we write out that access is denied, and we go back round and we check, has it been logged in? No. So we ask again for a password, then we input it, then we check it again. But what happens if we have the correct password, if we type in swordfish? Well, this line just joins that line, and you might notice that that said no there, so I'm going to have to change the word there to yes. So I've typed in swordfish, it's the correct password, so I go back to here, back up to the loop. It now checks, is logged in true? Well, actually, I've missed a stage out there. So easy to do, and also I notice I'm short of space. I need another process box. Oh, sorry about this. Set logged into true. There we go. Let's shrink that down. That box has to go there. So we need a bit more space here. So the yes goes from, oh, so hard, to the box, and from the box to the area, and then I need to try and change that no there to a yes. I did say this was difficult. It's even difficult for myself. And that is my new flowchart. That is just not easy at all. What I'm going to do is shrink down the screen a little bit if I can. Can't see the shrink, and paste that into my document. So I would take a screenshot of that and paste it into the document. I'm not going to do it while I'm on the video. It won't do it properly, but I will put this flowchart in the document that I give you. So that is the flowchart. If you can create that flowchart, I will be stunned, particularly if you do a better job than I did. As I've said, we're just learning. In the next few lessons, I'm going to start asking you why these boxes are here and what they do, and it'll be regular lessons. This is the end of the demonstration. This is the end of seeing the big picture. Now I've got to teach you how to put those little jigsaw pieces together. Don't worry if you don't understand things at the moment. It is really, really difficult. Practice is what I want you to do. If you haven't got Python, then write it out by hand on paper. definitely practice the pseudocode, because that will never require a computer to run. So write them out so you get used to writing the word set, or you get used to writing the word do or then, or end if or end while. So it becomes part of your vocabulary, your nature. Have a go at writing the code from it so you can see the differences. So when I look at the Python code, I can match each line to each line of code to each line of pseudocode and notice what is in and what is not in, which makes it pseudocode, which makes it Python. Practice them, write them down. That way you'll gain experience. We will learn how to program and how to analyze programs a lot later, not now. This is just how to write a project, and you only need to do what I've done, not to come up with anything on your own. So in the next few lessons we will look at doing this, or look at why these things work.